All right, this is section 4.4. Looking at Central Europe primarily, a little bit of Eastern Europe, but mostly Central Europe. And the code name, the kind of way to remember the countries that we're going to talk about and their designated place, is going to be the Hapa. Right there. Let me get all my toys out. Look at that action. That's beautiful. So really, again, we're going to look at Central Europe here. We looked at France, Spain, Western Europe. We're going to go back to Western Europe eventually with England. But here, 4.4, we're going to look at several places, empires, 5 of them actually, in Central Europe. And it's Thursday, and I'm tired, and Walking Dead is on TV. So there may not be much said. And I know that if you're in 2014, you're on fall break listening to this, so I'm going to be real fast so you can get back to whatever you're doing on fall break. I'm sure it's wonderful and fun. So let's get going here. All right, we're going to start with the PA. We're going to start with the last part and look at 2 empires which start to rise and get more powerful during this age of absolutism. And that's Prussia and Austria. They have nothing to do with Pennsylvania. So forget that. Okay, first of all, we're going to look at the Austrian Empire. Austrian Empire is basically the remnants of the Holy Roman Empire. It's going to be basically known as Austria. What you have here is the part of the Holy Roman Empire which is going to transform into what Austria will be, and then all of this down here as well is going to be land added to the Austrian Empire. Now, the Austrian Empire is going to be run by, you guessed it, the Habsburgs are still around, and they're going to control Austria, Hungary, and other areas of southeastern Europe. But here's the deal. Here's the problem, is that the Austrian Empire is going to control a lot of land, and you're going to have a lot of different people of different nationalities on that land. So it's not a national state. There's lots of diversity. So in order to make all of the people happy, you're going to have to do about a zillion different things, and that's just hard to do. A zillion is a made-up number. And I don't know much math, but I know that. So it's going to be difficult, again, for the Austrian Empire to consolidate and grow and increase their power and control. But in the time period here, let's say the 17th and definitely the 18th century, Austria is going to be able to consolidate a lot of power. And against the Habsburg family, the descendants of Charles V, which are going to make that happen. Okay, 2 Austrians of note, really, and you probably are not going to have to know either of these guys. You might have to know the second one, but we'll just go on from there. First of all, Leopold I, he was Holy Roman Empire, or Emperor, and in the late 17th century, and he was most well known for wearing ridiculous hats like that, and also holding out in Vienna and pushing back the Ottoman Empire, the Siege of Vienna. The Ottoman Empire, OE, laid siege to Vienna, tried to take the city, and they advanced that far up into Central Europe, and they were not able to take the city, and that will be the last furthest Muslim push into Europe. That's in 1683, which, to give you a little context, is right in the bread and butter zone of Louis XIV's range, or rule in France. So there's that. Then you have Charles VI. Comes around a little bit later and issues a piece of work called the Pragmatic Sanction of 1713. And that does 2 things. One is that he says that after he's dead and in the ground, that his possessions, Habsburg possessions, can never be divided. So that's kind of important. You have all these like little diverse areas, and he says, it can never be divided. You can't like split it up after I'm gone. And he also says that his daughter, whose name is Maria Theresa, is going to come after him. He doesn't have a son, so he knows that after he dies, there might be some claims to the throne, maybe a noble getting frisky, who knows. But Charles VI says, no, it's going to be my daughter, my precious little princess, Maria Theresa, who's going to be the next emperor of the Austrian Empire. Hey, I don't even know. All right, so that's Austria, and that's all in good. But now we're going to start to look at a new state in Europe, and it's called Prussia. And Prussia is going to evolve out of a state called Brandenburg, and I'll show you a map here in a second. But it's basically, it's basically going to be all of this land in northern Germany, northern Poland, and become a very, very strong place. And you see here 1648, if you look at your colors, Treaty of Westphalia. So this Prussia is going to become a very powerful state in 17th and 18th century Europe and beyond. They're going to be led by a royal family called the Hohenzollern, and that's a real fun word to say, so say it with me right here. Hohenzollern. 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 Okay, got it? Good. All right, so they're going to be your royal family, so it's another name to kind of keep track of as we go forward. And this gives you an idea of how powerful it is and how large Prussia grows to be. And if you notice below, apparently the PowerPoint didn't like keeping military one word, so this does not say military is number one. This is supposed to be military. But in Prussia, the military and spending on the military is going to be the absolute priority. I don't have my stats in front of me, but I seem to remember that by the year 1750, Prussia has the 12th largest population in Europe. However, they have the 3rd largest army. That militaristic spirit is not going to go away. You can consider them really the Sparta of Europe. Prussians are really into the military force and the military idea. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Not even for this unit, but even as we get into the rest of the year when Germany begins to show up. Okay, so we got 3 here, or 2 guys actually, to note. Some Prussian dudes. Really, both of these are really irrelevant. I just wanted to give you a little timeline. First of all, you have, and they also, you think all the Henrys and Charleses are bad. They are obsessed with the names Frederick and William here in Prussia, but you really won't need to know these guys. First of all, Frederick William, the Great Elector. I should have some punctuation errors there. He is going to, he's actually Calvinist himself, so he's going to promote toleration in the Prussian Empire. Prussia is a very Calvinist state, Lutheran to a degree, but very Protestant. Very little Catholicism in Prussia, as opposed to Austria, for example. But Frederick William is going to give full control of the army to the nobles. The nobles in Prussia are called the Junkers. Okay? They also can be pronounced Junkers, but let's just say Junkers, that's fine. So again, the nobles in Prussia known as Junkers, and they're going to get full control of the army. Remember the deal, the agreement that was made between kings and nobles in Central and Eastern Europe. Frederick William could rule, but the nobles kind of get something in return, and here they get control of the army. Then you have Frederick the First, who's the most popular king during this period. He wanted to be like Louis XIV, and that's him down here. And I think he very much looks like Louis XIV with his fancy hair, all jazzed up and permed up. So you get kind of a sense of these guys going forward. Then, really, the most significant guy in Prussia during this time, his name is Frederick William I. And Frederick William was a militaristic dynamo. He is the one that really pushed this idea of militarism and focusing on the military into all parts of society. For example, they were known as the Sparta of the North. 80%, 4 out of every $5 went into the military. That's an incredible number. So again, it shows you they're not spending money on Medicare or health care or food stamps or anything like that. They're not taking care of their people. They're taking care of their army so Prussia can appear strong and take over territory. That's what they want. They also have a very efficient bureaucracy. If you're going to move up in government, you got to do it by having doing your job, which is a novel concept, doesn't always happen. It's just because you don't know you might have a cousin who's higher than you that gets you hired. Well, that didn't happen in Prussia under Frederick the William. You have to rise up and do your job, and that means that commoners could rise in status. So the middle class is has a lot of ability to be able to move up and down. And again, you've got Calvinism infused in society, so you had the Protestant work ethic going on. This is a really great thing going on in Prussia, and there's no reason why they're successful during this period is that they have the structures to be able to be that way. Now, Frederick William himself, I'll tell you a little bit more about him. He is just all about some military. He would go around and his personal guard, he was obsessed with tall soldiers. He was absolutely obsessed with tall soldiers. In fact, if you were over 6 feet tall, he would come and get word of it. He'd come to your village. He would take you from your family and you be in his personal guard. So let me think here. If your name is, I don't know, Tyler, or let's see who else are the tall people that I have. Let's see. Who else is tall? I don't really have any tall people. Oh, both Tylers. There's actually 2 Tylers I'm thinking of. Let's see. I guess I don't have any tall people. I have a lot of short guys this year. I don't know, like Evan and Michael. You know who you are. But anyway, this is really where we are. Is if you're a tall soldier, you're really, or a tall person, a Prussian who's tall, you're really desired by Frederick William to be in his personal guard. One other thing, too, he was just very disciplined. He would walk around, and if he saw someone not sitting up, he had a wooden stick or something to that effect, and he'd go out and rip you right up on the shoulder. And this was the king, mind you, telling you to sit up and things like that. So it was all serious. It's all business in Prussia, and that's really the legacy he leaves. I'm trying to think of other tall people, but I can't. This is a struggle. I'll have to think of some later and mention them at a later time. A lot of short guys. Okay, so now we're going to look at 3 empires very briefly that are crumbling during this time. It's really cool when I show you this PowerPoint. That's actually a meme, and the building like falls down. It's really funny, but this isn't funny. So this is called the Hop. Okay, you got the Hop, the PA, or Prussia and Austria. Now the Hop, these are the ones that are falling apart. All right, so here we go. Holy Roman Empire. It's, we've seen this story. It is not holy. It's not Roman. It's not empire. It has no chance. It's really going to morph and evolve into Austria, if anything else. Religious divisions pushed the empire to chaos during the 30 Years' War. Treaty of Westphalia allows Calvinism to split it. Stick a fork in it. The Pope has no influence really in Germany anymore. It's done. It's gone. Goodbye. See you later. Now, interesting case of the Ottoman Empire, because throughout this whole class we've been like, oh, look out, they're coming for you, it's gonna be crazy. Yeah, but really, into the 1600s, the Ottoman Empire starts to die out. Your book does a really good job of talking about why the Ottoman Empire and its internal structure really struggles. And I'm really not going to get into that here, but, in the glory days of the Ottoman Empire, Suleiman the Magnificent, who is this guy who's wearing a big onion on his head, basically he was, I'm sorry, that's insensitive. But anyway, he took a lot of land, nearly conquered Austria, against siege of Vienna, would be later, took much of southeastern Europe, and really how the Ottoman Empire would grow their empire would be they would capture, Christians in Europe, because that's basically all you had, and then converted their children. I don't know if that's insidious or what, but it's a very clever strategy, because then you have an army that's growing up and you have people who really think that way from childhood. And then they also have what's called the Janissary Corps, which were basically the places where they conquered they would have those people, you can fight for the Ottoman Empire. So, is it evil or anything like that? We shouldn't rush to, put good versus evil here, even because they have a different religion, they cause so much fear in Europe. It's a very different way of going about life, and again, you can look in your book for a lot of information, hint, hint, about how really the internal structures of the Ottoman Empire did not adapt to the rapidly changing Europe in the early modern period, the commercial revolution, things of that nature. And then finally, we have Poland. Now, we're not going to talk about Poland a lot, but when we do, Poland really is like like the redheaded stepchild, the ginger of Europe, if you will. They're always getting disrespected. I'd say they have a soul, but there's just not much going on for them. Poland's actually an impressive empire, but the Polish Empire is going to really struggle going into 1700. They had this philosophy called liberum veto in their government, centered in Warsaw. And here's what happens. You basically have a legislature type action going on. But for anything to pass, everybody in the legislature would have to agree. You'd have to have a unanimous vote. Now, that's kind of a difficult situation because people disagree on certain things. You have lively debate, and you have gridlock, and Mitch McConnell, and Harry Reid, and all this sadness going on with nothing getting done in Congress. Not blaming anybody, it's just the way it is. And that's what you'd see in Poland. If not everybody agreed for one certain thing, we are really taking out some zombies here on The Walking Dead. So I'm just going to take a moment. I'm really hopeful for this season. I think I really struggled at the prison after the first few episodes. So I'm hoping the show turns around. Anyway, speaking of not turning things around, the Polish Empire. So again, liberum veto, basically everyone had to agree to get a thing done. Well, here's what happened. Austrians and Russians would pay off and buy off members of their legislature to disagree. You'd have a little sabotage. So nothing would get done. And then by 1800, Poland is actually going to cease to exist because it's gobbled up on three sides by Russia, Prussia, and Austria. And Poland will not exist as an independent state until after World War I. Well, then if you know your history, World War II, Nazis, Germany kind of rolls on in. So Poland struggled a lot in our terms of European history, and a lot of it was due to this liberum veto. Fun fact, though, if you type in Poland into Google, that's one of your options, are these eagles attacking this small little bird. But based on what we just talked about, this small little bird right here might represent Poland. And here's Austria, and here's Russia as they're going to come in and take land. I don't know what this bird's doing over here. Maybe keeping watch of this one right here. But we have to look out for them. I think there might be a slide after this, but I don't think it's relevant. Yeah, basically this is just a summary of what I just said with these three. So anyway, there you go. Big thing to know here is while Prussia and Austria become kind of powerful, Prussia and their emphasis, Austria and their challenges, and then basic reasons why the HRE, OE, and P struggle so much. So get back to fall break if you're listening in 2014. If you're not, maybe in the past or future, you live your life in a good way. I'll go back to watching some zombies. And I'll think about, again, who's tall in my classes because I'm really struggling with that tonight for some reason. So you have a good night and a good day and a good morning and a good afternoon and a good life. And this guy is about to get jacked up by this zombie. Nope. He hit him in the head. Now hitting him in the head. I don't know what the word hitting means, so I'll leave you.